Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I honestly had no intention of talking about Jaclyn Cosmetics and the whole never-ending swirl of drama around that, but here we are. Her mother has now taken to Instagram, and I have feelings about that. And I wanted to share those feelings while I apply makeup to my face. So that's what we're gonna do. Let's do this. I sometimes get myself tripped up doing these kind of videos because I try to do too much and tell you what I'm using and why I like it and then move back to what I'm actually talking about, and it becomes very convoluted. So what I will do is just list all the products down below so that I don't end up distracting myself. So let's just talk about this for a moment. I did not buy any of the lipsticks. I think I mentioned this briefly in a previous video. I did look to get one just for the purposes of a review and to see, you know, was this truly an incredible formula, all of that kind of thing. But the lipsticks were $18 US and the shipping to Canada was $20 US. So that was a big old hard pass for me. I expect, you know, increased shipping rates to Canada. I get that, I expect it, but not to the degree that it's more than the cost of the product that I'm purchasing. I won't do that. So I avoided that whole situation, not intentionally, but by divine intervention. So yay me. But of course I am aware of what's been going on. I mean, there's not many people who aren't aware, to be honest. I mean, it's being covered by mainstream media. It is everywhere you look. So this is not a very specific minor incident that only a few people in the know are aware of. This is big. And her reaction to it, I think, is what is compounding the problems, because her reaction has pretty much been no reaction, which, unless you're like an armadillo or a freaking ostrich, which I don't actually know if ostriches literally put their heads in the sand, I don't know, but curling up in a ball and pretending that it's not there is not particularly helpful. Certainly not conducive to great business practices. So that whole thing, I think, has just created so many issues for her. She did do a video addressing some of the concerns, but she spoke incredibly fast. And I mean, Jaclyn does have the energy of like 3 suns combined into one little tiny body. So her energy level, I'm somewhat familiar with and accustomed to, but she doesn't usually speak quite that quickly. I literally had to check my settings to see if I had accidentally sped it up. I'm used to speeding things up because my 2-year-old likes to watch these like mind-numbingly boring videos where different colored balls come up and they count and cars change colors. It's a whole thing. So I speed them up because sanity. So sometimes that carries over to other videos that I'm watching and I'm like, slow down, whoa Nelly. But that was not the case with her video. She just genuinely was speaking very quickly. And I'm sure people who are into like body language and trying to detect lies in other people, they'll have a ton of that to say. I don't have that skill set, so I'm not going to comment on what could possibly motivate somebody to speak that quickly. I do think the entire video was very calculated in terms of how it was presented. The, you know, laid back positioning, sitting in a chair, she's not in her typical filming space, no makeup, a hoodie, that kind of thing, all the way down to the cross that she's wearing. I think it's all very subliminal and subtle, but it's designed for a purpose. And I think because we've seen so many of these apology videos, I put that in quotes because none of them really come across as genuine. So I think the fact that we've seen so many of them, viewers are now a bit immune to those kind of tactics and we can see them for what they are. And then most recently, so I've heard that she has deleted her social media. I don't necessarily think that she's deleted it, looking at Social Blade, like it still shows up, so at least Twitter, so I think she's probably like privatized it or deactivated it or unlisted it or what. I don't know how to, I'm old, I don't know how to work this shit. But whatever the other option is to just remove it from site but not fully delete it, I think that's what she's done, which I suspect means that she will just re-engage at some point. I would not be surprised if she did at some point re-engage. Somebody who has been so present in the social media sphere for so long, I don't think can really like detach away from that. So I think as well though, speaking just the word detach, and I'm not saying that it's easy, but she has very much enmeshed herself in her own brand. And I mean, that's logical. That's to be expected. It has her name on it. It is her brand. But I think that's where a large part of the problem is. And it's not necessarily just her fault. It's consumers' faults as well. Because we have not separated her from Jaclyn, the YouTuber, and Jaclyn, the CEO. You know, and it's a very nuanced distinction, I guess, but there is a distinction there, and I think the person who is having the hardest time with it is obviously Jaclyn herself, because her initial response to tweets that were saying like, is this normal? Rather than responding as a CEO and saying, I'm really sorry that you are unsatisfied with our product. What can we do to make it better? Or even reaching out by DM to do that. Unfortunately, Jaclyn put her influencer hat on and responded in a rather defensive manner, shall we say. And essentially accused this person of, you know, having like super dry lips. Which you couldn't see her lips in the picture anyways, so like how would you know? I don't think it was like the most egregious email or tweet that's ever been made, but I do think it certainly could have been handled a lot better. And I think based on the backlash from that, I think she kind of quickly realized that she stepped in poop. I think she's starting to realize, but I still don't think that she's handling this situation appropriately at all. I mean, there are not many brands that can step in the poop and then tuck tail and run and still survive. And like we all know, this was her first launch, so first impressions are important, and not addressing the issues head on, not being fully transparent, and honestly not recalling the lipsticks. Whether or not there is actually anything wrong with them, enough people highly suspect that there is, that it would be a very safe move to do. Now, keep in mind, I don't know the ins and outs of that and the legalities of it. I don't know if recalling opens you up to anything. I don't know. But that aside, like, it would have been a much better PR move to say, you know what, we've heard your concerns. While we stand behind our product, while we have conducted independent testing and we do not feel that there has been any recall, based on your concerns and stated opinions, whatever, we're going to be issuing a voluntary recall. And I think that they could have spun that. If in fact Jaclyn would ever deign to hire an actual PR company. It's all well and good to stand behind friends and relatives, but first of all, they're not arm's length, so there is a bit of a conflict of interest there, honestly, because if she's doing well, they're doing well. It all trickles down. And they're not, as far as I know, not necessarily trained in that area. So it can be very good to get an outsider's opinion on business issues, particularly, so that you're getting unbiased advice. Instead, what has happened is Mama Jack, what the hell's her name? Robin? I don't know her last name. Anyways, Mummy comes onto the scene, posts something on Instagram, and then writes this huge long caption after it. I'm going to read it just so that you don't have to. It says, I want to thank each and every one of you for your wonderful messages, thoughts, and prayers for Jaclyn during this time. Okay, so if I just read that sentence to you with no context, my guess is you would think that this poor Jaclyn girl is dying of cancer and not shooting herself in the foot with her company. As her mom, it has been heartbreaking in so many ways, and that I can relate to. I am a mother, so I do understand that. It was difficult and so very disappointing enough that some of her lipsticks had issues, but the onslaught of hate, lies, and even betrayal has by far been the worst part. Okay, so difficult and disappointing that some of her lipsticks had issues. So I know other people have made videos on this, I know I'm kind of late to all this, but I'm going to give my thoughts on this. So I don't think that that's an unfair statement. I think it is downplaying the situation, because I know the brand at some point had come out with like 0.01% of the lipsticks had a problem, and then I think they may have revised it to 0.1, but I did specifically see 0.01, which is crap. That's just crap. So I don't think by any stretch that all of the lipsticks were contaminated. I'll use that word lightly, but let's call a spade what it is. So some, yes, while that is accurate, I think in this context of her post, it is very minimizing. So some of her lipsticks had issues, but the onslaught of hate, lies, and even betrayal has been the worst. So I don't know that betrayal is the right word here. People are allowed to be pissed off about something, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they are betraying the other person. People can call other people out for perceived inaccuracies, shall we say, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they're betraying. You are not a good friend because you back your friend's bullshit up. You're not. Good friends will challenge their friends when they see them doing something that they shouldn't be doing, and that is not betrayal. Very different thing. No one deserves to be beaten when they are already sad and down. But this post is not intended to focus on the negative, but rather the positivity that has come out of this. So if it's not supposed to focus on the negative, don't mention the negative. You can entirely make a positive post without actually alluding to any negativity. From the bottom of my heart, I want to thank those of you who are true and loyal followers and friends of Jaclyn. And this is the sentence that kind of gets under my skin, because the people who put their money into Jaclyn's pocket, put faith into her brand for creating a safe and aesthetically pleasing product, they're not followers and friends per se, they are consumers. And this again goes back to making that distinction and separation between Jaclyn the person and Jaclyn Cosmetics, the corporate entity. So people are, yes, they're pissed off at Jaclyn because she is the face of the company, but really where that hate, if you want to call it that, but where that disappointment and where that anger really is stemming from is the actions of the corporation and the failures of the corporation in this case. I've always said that she has the best followers of all. You are all the most kind, sweet, and beautiful souls inside and out, and Jaclyn truly loves you. I love you. So basically, I mean, and Peter Mon alluded to this in his most recent video as well, but she's basically saying, like, those who have stood by her and those who have only said positive things, you guys are the true fans. Anybody who has voiced disappointment or disapproval, you're not true fans. And that, I think, is shitty, because I guarantee you there were true fans who put their money out there, perhaps younger fans who saved up their money or traded chores for their parents' credit card, whatever the case may be. There were, I guarantee you, true fans who purchased these products. Raw Beauty Christie is a true fan. She said so in her video. She is a fan of Jaclyn Hill. She purchased the entire collection and it was not up to par by any stretch. her saying this is not up to par is not her betraying Jaclyn, and it doesn't diminish who she is as a fan. It's her voicing an opinion, voicing concerns, and sharing facts as she saw them. So I disagree with this very strongly. It's always been an honor to meet you, blah, blah, blah. I'm grateful for each of you. Wish I can give you all a hug. Sure. Thank you for having faith in her and forgiving her. Jaclyn needs time, but she'll be back stronger than ever. She's surrounded by love. And honestly, I'm glad that she is surrounded by love and support. I truly am, because I think everybody deserves that. But this whole post is just so weird. And then she creates these hashtags. Have courage and be kind. Cheerleader for Jaclyn. Hashtag I love Jaclyn. Hashtag proud mom. And then asterisk, disrespect will not be tolerated here, which I assume if I look at this post and read through the comments, you're only going to see Ask Kissy positive responses, because all the other ones are going to be deleted and blocked. I'm going to get back into the makeup because I got sidetracked with that. I'm going to share a personal story with you and explain why I'm grateful that my mother is not Robin. Here we go. I am a lawyer in Ontario. We are regulated. We're a self-regulated body, which means that we have a law society which acts as sort of legal police, if you will. So all the standards and everything are set out there, and when people complain, they don't complain to the police, they complain to the law society. I think I've explained this enough. Okay. So March last year, I'm not going to get into specifics and I'm not going to name people, but I filed a complaint against another lawyer. And that's the first time in 10 years of practice that I've ever done that. And I truly felt that I had to at the time, because I was very concerned about the behavior that this person, well, let's call him Joe. Joe. I was concerned about the behavior of this person, Joe, and I was concerned about statements that had been made to the court, and I tried to address it behind closed doors, and that did not work. So I did what I felt I had to do, and I debated over it for a very long time, because it's not something that I take lightly, and it's not, I need a brush. It's not something that I ever wanted to do. I tried to rectify the situation, and it was beyond rectifying, unfortunately. So I voiced a complaint. In response, Joe also voiced a complaint about me. And the allegations made against me were shocking. That I am abusive, that I am mentally unstable, that I am incompetent as a lawyer, and on it went. So I then had to respond to that. My response was thorough. Where certain allegations could be proven using documentation, I provided that. I also received 14 letters of commendation from other local lawyers, which was incredible. Absolutely incredible. It meant the world to me to know what it is that my colleagues actually think about me. So that has wound its way around. Received the response back on the complaint against me. They did a thorough investigation and they found no evidence of wrongdoing. So that is wonderful. I did tell my mother about this as it was transpiring, and you know, she's asked for updates and things like that, as she would. I cannot imagine a world in which my mother would write to the Law Society on my behalf to stand up for me. I would die 1,000 times over if my mother did that. I own my own business. I am a professional. I put my name on my own shingle. I have to own my own shit. And I cannot imagine hiding behind my mother in that regard. I would literally die if my mother was like, hey, I just called the Law Society for you and I told them what a swell kid you are. Oh my God, could you imagine? Ah, the recording stopped and I'm not entirely sure where it was at, so hopefully it didn't cut off too much. What I was saying is that there is a distinction between being a supportive mother and being an enabling mother. And I think that picking up the battle axe for your child in a situation like this where, you know, it wasn't that Jaclyn had posted a video and people were having a negative review to just her regular YouTube content. This is her brand. This is her as a CEO going into hiding and her mother stepping up to be the grand defender of all things. I can't come on here and say that I am like the perfect mother and I know what's going on and everybody should do what I say. But with my 7-year-old, I mean, she's in school full time. She has been for 3 years. She just finished grade 1. So she's now got interpersonal relationships and she's got friends and they've got their own little, oh, that's way too much of my nose. They've got their own little dramas that go on and, you know, feelings get hurt and all of that kind of thing. And she talks to me about this stuff, as I would always hope that she would. Where in the, there we go. And I don't want to shut those lines of communication down, but nor do I also want to ever give her the impression that she can just run away from all of her problems and just hide behind me. Because it starts when they're young. Like, the little dramas that she faces and the schoolyard tiffs that she has, they are the most dramatic thing that she has ever encountered so far in her young life. And I am fully aware of that, and I don't want to minimize the difficulties or the challenges that she faces from time to time. But those issues are only going to get bigger as she gets older. And certainly once you step into the sphere of owning your own business, all eyes are on you. And if you can't handle your own problems, then you don't deserve to have your own company. I'm sorry, you don't. Could you imagine a world in which, I don't know, the CEO of Nike holds a press conference and sends his mother or her mother out to handle the questions? Like, that is not a thing. So while I get that there are very good intentions here, it's not overly helpful. With Aspen, to circle back to what it was that I was trying to get out, you know, when she comes to me with these little problems, I always ask her, so what did you do? Because she'll tell me, you know, so-and-so, I cried today because so-and-so wouldn't share their markers with me, or whatever it is. I don't mean to roll my eyes at that. I'm sorry, I take that back. Because for her, it is a legitimate frustration for her. So while I can look at it at, you know, my age and think, God, I wish that was my biggest problem, for her, it truly is her biggest problem. So I always ask her, like, what did you do? What did you say? How did you handle it? And I think over time, there has definitely been an evolution, because in kindergarten, she would just cry. And her teacher would tell us, you know, she cries a lot. And I said, I know, she's got a sensitive little heart, like it's made of gold, but it's incredibly fragile. She is very sensitive. And so anytime somebody would butt in front of her in line, or somebody would take the toy that she was playing with, she would just crumple and cry and would never stand up for herself. And she had the same teacher for JK as she did for SK, and by the end of SK, the teachers were like, we have seen a huge progression in her. You know, she stands up for not only herself, but for other people in her class. And that has grown even more throughout grade 1. And while I don't want to toot my own horn, I do think that it has helped her that her father and I are both like, here are some ideas on how you can handle this if this happens again, and equip her with those tools. And then trust that as she goes out into the world and back to school, she'll handle her shit. You know, the next time some kid takes her toy away from her, either, you know, stand up for yourself and say no, find another toy, or tell on the little bastard. I mean, that's a viable option as well. So I don't think we do our children any favors, or our friends or our loved ones, if we just pat them on the head, tell them everything's going to be okay, and then try to pick up the pieces for them. You don't learn from your mistakes if you never fix the ones that you've already made. If somebody fixes all of that for you, you don't learn how to handle it. She is a 28-year-old woman, and while that is relatively young, it is not fresh out of high school. She obviously felt that she was prepared and ready enough to take on this role. I mean, it's been in the works for 5 years, for Christ's sake. At any rate, she felt that she was ready to take on this role as CEO, finally launch her products. I have to believe that she was aware that there was at least some issues, and then decided to launch anyways, and this is the natural fallout of that. So if you're not prepared to handle that, then you need to step down. Become a figurehead, hire somebody to do this stuff for you. Stay behind the scenes. You can keep your name on the brand, but hire professionals who know what they're doing. Look for a team of people who, yes, they will support you, but they won't just tell you what it is that you prefer to hear. And those can be very, very hard conversations to have. I completely lost track of what it was that I was saying, like mid-sentence, but I'm back. So, what I was trying to say is that it is very difficult to have these conversations. I can only speak from a family lawyer's perspective. I've never owned a cosmetics brand before, so I am going to share from my perspective. What is glittery all over my face? Anyways, having difficult conversations, it is important. So when I initially meet with people, I do it in the context of a consultation. And in those initial meetings, you know, people want to know what their chance of success is and want to know how they can avoid certain things. So for example, are they going to have to pay spousal support? Are they going to have to share their pension? Things like that. And it does nobody any good, least of all them, but it does nobody any good for me to say, don't worry about it, you're not going to have to share your pension, when I know full well that they're going to have to. I have to tell people, and sometimes I feel like the harbinger of doom in doing so, but I have to tell them the hard, cold reality of the situation so that they are prepared. And frankly, it makes my job easier in the long run. If I tell somebody, don't worry about it, you're not going to have to pay spousal support, when I know that they're going to, and then lo and behold, they have to, who is that helping? So with Jaclyn Cosmetics and Jaclyn the CEO, she really does stand to benefit from having a team of people who will say to her, you know, I know that you think this is a great idea, and I know that this is the easier approach, because let's be honest, deleting all of your social media and not engaging with people who aren't necessarily being the nicest, we can all do better in that regard, is not an easy, like that's the easy option, but it may not be the most helpful. And she needs somebody who's going to say to her, get your ass out there, talk about it, do your recall, build it up again. Like, reestablish your credibility, take ownership of the problem, stop trying to deflect it, own your shit, and get on with it. I really think that that is what needs to happen. And although people are still going to be pissy about it, and although, yes, there is an embarrassment factor here, at least, if she could come out of this and say, you know what, I fucked up. I knew there was a problem, but I didn't want to delay because it had already been 5 years and it was just going to be embarrassing, or whatever the reasons were for moving ahead on this launch. Just full freaking disclosure. Just share it, own it, and people are going to respect it on some level. Now I think it's too late to come back and be like, okay guys, let's press reset. Let's try this again. Because she's already dug the hole that she finds herself in. So I truly hope that she does learn from it. Like, I hope it's not just stay under the covers until the boogeyman goes away and it's on to the next drama, because let's be honest, there's going to be another drama. I guarantee it. Somebody's going to do something asinine and everybody's focus is going to go over there. You really think James Charles is going to let this go on for so long without the spotlight on him? Just saying. So I hope that she truly learns from this, and in the future when she makes mistakes, because she will, because she's human and we all do, she has a better response and she has a better grasp of how to respond and what not to do. Because sometimes that is what the learning curve is. It's not about learning how to do something. It's about learning how not to do something. And sometimes you learn enough of those steps and you become successful with it. That wraps up my thoughts on Jaclyn Hill and Jaclyn Cosmetics. Let's talk really quickly because I've got a few more. Oh my God, you're beautiful. Jesus Christ. I honestly, like I mentioned in my most recent video, I am not one to use the obsessed word. Like, I'm truly not. Oh my God, the stained glass collection from Clionadh Cosmetics is fucking stunning. In case you don't want to read the description, the purple shade on my lids is one of their multi-chromes in the shade Gothic. And then this gorgeous inner corner highlight is one of their, I think it's a multi-chrome glitter in the shade Kaleidoscope. And it looks pink in the pan, but it's like pink and teal and like, it's like a unicorn just spit in my eye in the most magical and delightful of ways. Okay, so Marlena, moving back and jumping back into useful conversation, I watched her video and I have to say, I want to be friends with that woman. I do. That woman. Oh my God, I can't believe I just said that. Oh, asthma. Because honestly, James calling her that woman, maybe I should say that boy calling her that woman, highly disrespectful. Like, you should be ashamed of yourself, Mr. Charles. Go sit in the corner, for God's sake. Learn some goddamned respect. Why can I not breathe? Holy shit. So, I want to be friends with Marlena still. I do. There we go. Apparently I'm getting worked up. I think she's a class act. I do. I know that some people have had complaints about her. Some people think that she's just doing this for whatever misguided reasons. But I truly think that she is just a class act. She could have laid everybody's shit bare so many times along the way, and yet she didn't. And even in her video where she did sort of expose the underbelly of the beauty community, she still did it in a very respectful way. And I take my hat off to her. And I think it's very sad, and I honestly think that it is a loss for the beauty community that she's no longer going to be putting out content. She's going to do her Beauty and the Boss series, but she's one of the OGs, man. Like, I learned so much from her, and I've just always really enjoyed her personality. I think she's quirky, and I think she's really sweet, and I think she's really down to earth, and I really feel for her. And I think she also, her domestic violence video that she did was also just so important and so timely. And I really hope that that gains a lot of traction as well, because I think people are so quick to judge those who are in abusive relationships. And again, drawing from my own professional experience, it is not an easy thing to leave. There are so many layers involved, and particularly if there are children. In a lot of cases, not all, but a lot of cases, at least the ones that I have worked on, there is a definite financial disparity between the two. The abusive partner is typically the one who makes the larger income. Sometimes the other person has been so isolated that they don't even work outside of the house, or that has just been the structure of their family for no nefarious reasons, but they don't have that support. And I have seen where they've been cut off completely from access to all funds, left with the children, but have no way of purchasing food for them or paying for the roof over their heads and all that kind of thing. And it is terrifying, as you can imagine, for them. So all I can say is that if you are a victim of domestic violence, there are shelters available, there are resources available. I will leave a link to shelter information, at least for Canadians, down below. If you are Googling at home or going to a website at home, you can actually access a secure, it's called Incognito. I believe it's Ctrl N. I will double check that and I will put that in the description box as well. And basically that just means that there's no search history, and any websites that you visit through Googling in that manner don't come up in any sort of history feed. So if there is fear in the home that your actions online are being monitored, that is one layer of protection for you. Lips. I don't know what to do with lips. Let's just go Pat McGrath, because I love it so much and it goes with everything. Okay, so not the most fun and upbeat of videos, and I suspect it's going to be incredibly long. So if you've made it to this point, thank you so much. You're a superstar. Speaking of superstars, my hairdresser is a miracle worker. I went and had my hair cut today. It's not dyed. I was sent a hair dye package from a brand to test out, and I did promise to do a video on that, so I need to get my button gear and actually dye my hair, but I wish I had straight hair. It's so beautiful. I love it. So Jared at Envy Hair Salon in Barrie, you are a rock star, and thank you so much. All right, guys, that is it. I would love to hear from you on any of the things that I've mentioned. I hope that it is coherent, and I hope that I have made some valid points at any rate. I'd love to hear from you guys down below, so feel free to leave me comments. Thank you, as always, for taking the time to watch, especially for these longer videos like this one. I really, really do appreciate it. I will see you in my next video, and until then, just be a decent human being. Bye for now, guys.